Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar Pepsi Black. Time 7 hours.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
With the news at this time, I am Tiana Jordan. A very good morning to you. The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. To begin the news, here is a look at the lead stories. A doctor was last night killed at his medical clinic in Kingston, Georgetown. Two men who rode on bicycles more than 500 miles to raise awareness about cancer and mental health have arrived in Latham. Guyana, through its low-carbon development strategy, pledges to reduce carbon emission by 70% in the year 2030. Leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon, believes the revised low-carbon development strategy is a vision without benefits for all Guyanese. The Guyana government has identified China Railway Group Limited to open negotiations to build the Amilo Falls hydropower project and sell electricity to the Guyana Power and Light. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has called for renewed collaboration in an effort to address climate change. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now the news in detail. A well-known city doctor was found dead at his medical clinic on Duke Street, Kingston, and two men have since been arrested. He is 49-year-old Colin Roach of Windsor Estates, East Bank, Demerara. Police say two employees of his International Medical Clinic on Duke Street, Kingston have since been arrested. Dr. Roach was a former chairman of the National Sports Commission. The two men who worked with the doctor told police that the clinic opened for business between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. They say that after the clinic closed, one of them went out while the other retired to his living quarters in the top flat, leaving the doctor in his office on the middle flat. Investigators were also informed that at about 8 p.m., a male was seen exiting, who returned about 7 minutes later and re-entered the clinic. At about 8 hours 18, the vehicle belonging to the doctor drove out of Duke Street, heading north. One of the employees told police that he observed that the lights in the doctor's office were still on, and this prompted one of the employees to call the doctor on his cellular phone, but he got no answer. Police were told that the other employee was alerted, and using their office keys, he went to turn off the said lights. It was then that he reportedly discovered the doctor lying motionless on his back in a pool of blood in the examination area. Police were summoned, and a wound that appears to be a lash was seen on the left side of his forehead. A Guyanese man yesterday ended his 525-mile journey by bicycle from Georgetown to Latham to raise public awareness about cancer and mental health. Tyson English left Georgetown on Tuesday and was joined hours later by Michael Trotman from Linden. He says, They were warmly greeted on arrival in Latham by a motorcade and persons dressed in pink, the color that is associated with breast cancer awareness campaigns globally.
We had a welcome party when we arrived in Latham. There was a motorcade taking us around Latham, of course, today as part of that welcome party. We were treated for lunch as well in Latham, and then we're going to be taken. I think there's going to be a trip to one of the resorts, and there's a biking club in Latham that has some activities planned for us as well. So the reception has been amazing, quite unexpected, but it has been amazing so far.
Mr. English says he has been able to raise awareness about cancer and mental health. He is determined that no one else must steal his idea and hopes that Ride for Hope will become an annual affair, even with international participation, to educate and inform Guyanese about those two health issues.
It can reach a stage where you have persons coming from the international arena, and that to an extent would improve the local tourism sector. So while Right for Hope would not be directly for profit, the tourism sector benefits. So you have persons from overseas who want to come to Guyana and be able to experience it, be able to do it for either a charity or whatever the personal objectives they may have set out and so on. So those are some things that we're looking at.
Tyson English, the man who rode 525 miles from Georgetown to Latham to raise awareness about cancer and mental health. Guyana, through its low-carbon development strategy, pledges to reduce carbon emission by 70% in the year 2030. Addressing the COP26 Climate Summit in Scotland, President Irfan Ali says Guyana will continue to maintain its pristine forest as an asset.
And in recognition of the ecosystem and climate services provided by forests, it is imperative that we finalize the rules for carbon markets and REDD+, so as to properly value tropical forests and the climate services which they provide. My country, Guyana, is already playing its part in addressing climate change and will continue to do so. We'll maintain our forests, almost the size of England and Scotland combined, storing 20 gigatons of carbon as a global asset.
President Ali further committed to COP26 to contribute more to mitigate climate change.
We'll work with local communities in conserving, protecting, and sustainably managing our forests, biodiversity, and freshwater supplies. We'll decouple economic growth and emissions through a progressively cleaner energy mix with the aim of reducing our carbon emissions by 70% by 2030.
President Ali says history must be recorded as having taken action to avert catastrophe and preserve the planet. Guyana, he says, will partner with all international bodies to mitigate climate change effects.
History must not judge us as having only counted our losses. It must instead herald our effort to confront one of our planet's greatest threats, climate change. In this regard, Guyana is prepared to work with the international community for collective action. We support the position of CARICOM and are aligned with the Alliance for Small Island States, AOSIS, the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States, CELAC, the Letitia Pact, the Dhaka-Glasgow Declaration, and the Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forests and Land Use.
President Ali urged developed countries who are greater contributors to carbon emission to stringently ensure the commitment of 14,100 billion annually is met to support small island and low coastal states and other mitigating factors of the effects of climate change. Leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon, believes the revised low-carbon development strategy, LCDS, is a vision without benefits for all Guyanese. The opposition leader, commenting yesterday at a virtual media briefing, says the LCDS is a scheme for friends of the government to benefit.
The new LCDS, as it's being touted by the PPP, is a clear sort of a knockoff from the shallow strategy that was created in 2008-2009 by Barra Jagdeo. The PPP thought that by adding a few pictures there, a few sentences there, that this would be a fool the Guyanese people that this is something new. But it's old wine in a new barrel. Same stuff, same old nonsense. So there's nothing new about this LCDS. In fact, it's a rushed strategy that is tantamount to what I would call a Ponzi scheme, where all seemingly welcomed and included, but only a few will benefit.
Mr. Harmon says unlike the Green State strategy of the APNU plus AFC administration, which saw wild consultations, the LCDS fails to address issues of the ordinary Guyanese.
The LCDS fails to outline clearly how the people of Guyana will benefit through plans and policies that generate long-term benefits to the people and growth to the economy. The LCDS, once again, is looking to the Amila Falls for energy production, the same falls that dries up twice a year. This can no longer be seen as a surprise by the PPP, as they seem to be doing one thing over and over. They only know to do things one way. And so it is nothing new that they've gone all the way back.
Mr. Harmon calls for President Irvin Ali to carefully examine the Green State strategy and formulate a strategy to benefit all Guyanese.
I trust that in these next 4 months of consultation that they speak about, it is not used just for window dressing, but that President Ali will see good sense and go back to the Green State Development Strategy 2040 vision, which encompasses all of the aspirations of the Guyanese people in it. And it's not just a little business where you're selling carbon credits, you're making the money, the businessmen get the money, and nothing trickles down to the Guyanese people.
World leaders are wrapping up a climate change summit where President Ali is in attendance and has promised that a revised LCDS will form part of Guyana's strategy to reduce carbon emissions. The Finance Ministry announced on Monday that the Guyana government has identified China Railway Group Limited to open negotiations to build the Amila Falls hydropower project and sell electricity to Guyana Power and Light for 7 US cents per kilowatt hour. The actual cost to build the power plant is not yet known, but the government says that all it would be doing is buying the electricity for GPL to resell at 15 US cents per kilowatt hour. Under the Build, Own, Operate, Transfer, BOOT model, the Finance Ministry says China Railway Group will provide the entire equity required by the project and undertake all the risk associated with the project. The government says that overall, this deal is even better than the previous one, requiring no equity contribution from the government in comparison with the previous project structure, which was based on a government contribution of $100 million US. Additionally, the current structure anticipates a cost of power that will be lower than the initial cost of 11 cents per kilowatt hour contemplated by the previous project structure. In response to the government's request for proposal during July 25 to August 15, 2021, 4 companies submitted proposals. The China Railway Group Limited was identified as the most capable partner by the evaluation committee after a rigorous evaluation process, following which the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board submitted the relevant recommendation to Cabinet for no objection. The AFHP was first identified in 1976 by the Canadian company Menanco during an extensive survey of hydroelectric power potential in Guyana. The Health Ministry says it is recording overall reduction of COVID infections, hospitalization, and deaths. During Tuesday's COVID update, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says the reduction is remarkable.
Well, first of all, we have noticed a trend where there has been a decline in cases across the country. So right now we have 2,673 active cases, and the cases vary by regions. So the regions where I would consider that we have hotspots are really in Region 3, Region 4. We also have in Region 8 and Region 10.
Dr. Anthony says as a result of reduced new cases, the numbers are on the decline in the hospitals.
So hospitalization, because we are getting less cases, we have also noticed that in our hospitalization rates. Right now, we have 60 persons in hospitals across the country. 35 of them are at Ocean View, with 14 of them in the ICU. So this is a drastic change from what we had a couple of weeks ago, when we were seeing about 100 and 120 cases at Ocean View. That is now down to 35. We have also had up to 38 persons in the ICU. That has come down to about 14.
The COVID death rate has also plummeted, and the ministry says it's ramping up efforts to reduce deaths.
So right now, we have, over the last 24 hours, we would have seen at least one death. Again, with a decrease in hospitalization for severe cases, we are also noticing that the death rates are going down. And so that's also a very important sign. The mortality rate right now, it's 12.2% to every, or 12 person to every 10,000 persons in the population. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see this number go down further, and that's what we're working on right now.
Guyana has 383,013 adults who have taken a first dose COVID vaccine and 245,932 fully vaccinated adults. There are 18,385 fully vaccinated children ages 12 to 17 years old and 27,932 partially vaccinated. And now in regional news. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has called for renewed collaboration in an effort to address climate change. Dr. Rowley made the appeal as he delivered his address on the last leg of the World Leaders Summit on Climate Change, COP26. Speaking to his colleagues, the Prime Minister acknowledged that action over lip service was critical to tackling the issues associated with climate change. Dr. Rowley says COP26 serves as an opportune occasion to assess whether the world's climate finance flows are headed in the right direction, even as the forum seeks to complete the rules to implement the 2015 Paris Agreement, which aims to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times and secure more ambitious commitments from countries to meet its targets. Just last week, developed countries confirmed they failed to meet a pledge made in 2009 to provide $100 billion a year in climate finance by 2020. This is now expected to be met in 2023. He added that August 2021 report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change presented a sobering outlook and brought into focus the severe shortfall in closing the emissions gap. Dr. Rowley went on to note that Trinidad and Tobago is already experiencing the effects of climate change. This includes the erosion of the country's coastline and the bleaching of the coral reefs. He also reminded that funding is challenging to access. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister petitioned for the full implementation of the Enhanced Transparency Framework. Dr. Rowley says Trinidad and Tobago is doing its part as an economy largely based on oil, gas, and petrochemicals to eventually transition to net zero. Trinidad and Tobago opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar has raised eyebrows at PM Keith Rowley's attendance at the COP26 World Leaders Summit of the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. During the United National Congress Virtual Report Forum on Monday, Persad-Bissessar questioned if Dr. Rowley, an avid golfer, jetting off to Scotland had more to do with the over 50 golf courses in that country than the conference. Rowley addressed the conference on Tuesday, the 2nd of November 2021. Bissessar questioned if the PM is going to tell world leaders that he dismantled the environment ministry she established and does not have a Minister of the Environment or ministry looking after the most important issue worldwide. The opposition leader told her supporters Rowley does not care about climate change or the conference. Otherwise, the PM would have gone to Glasgow armed with a clear position on climate change mitigation strategies over and above that of CARICOM. The opposition leader says PM Rowley and his team are there to play golf, eat dinners, live the good life, and collect tax-free US-denominated per diems, and possibly some shopping for new bespoke suits. Rowley is accompanied by Energy Minister Stuart Young, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, and Planning Minister Camille Robinson-Regis. And now, in the international news, here's the latest coming from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. A Republican has become governor of Virginia, dealing a blow to President Biden a year after he defeated Donald Trump. Glenn Youngkin was endorsed by Mr. Trump. David Willis reports from Washington.
The outcome of the election in Virginia was billed not only as a referendum on President Biden's first year in office, but a potential preview of next year's midterm elections. Exit polls suggested that in the wake of America's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and the president's failure to get key infrastructure and social spending measures through Congress, voters were unhappy with the pace of America's economic recovery, as well as Mr. Biden's handling of the increasingly hot-button issue of what children are taught at school.
A UN investigation into human rights violations in Ethiopia's Tigray region has found that all sides to the conflict have committed violations which could amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Here's Imogen Folks.
This report is 100 pages long, and reading it is harrowing. You have in particular many incidences of sexual violence where Most women in these situations, they're fearful to come forward, because there's stigma attached. But 30 bravely did. Half of them had been gang raped. We have incidences where young men were rounded up, taken away and shot. We have incidences where the male villagers were rounded up and made to parade in front of hostile troops naked.
An elite Chinese tennis player, Peng Shuai, has accused a retired communist official of sexual assault, the first time such an allegation has been made against one of China's top leaders. Celia Hatton has the story.
Peng Shuai once dominated the tennis doubles world, winning Wimbledon and the French Open. She was also in an extramarital relationship with a man at the very top of China's ruling Communist Party, Zhang Gaoli. But now, in an explosive social media post, she says he forced her into unconsensual sex at his home. Ms. Peng said that even though she was likely courting self-destruction by accusing someone so powerful of such a crime, she would tell the truth. Zhang Gaoli was once one of the 7 men who ran China.
The focus of the UN Climate Summit turns to cash today, with firms controlling trillions of dollars in private sector capital promising to help fund the global transition to green economics. Hundreds of the world's biggest finance companies have signed up to the Climate Coalition. The aim is to shift financial backing towards renewable energy. World news from the BBC. New analysis shows that the record-breaking high temperatures reached across Europe this summer would not have happened without climate change. The summer was Europe's hottest on record. Scientists at Britain's Meteorological Office found that what's now a 1 in 3 year event would be so rare without climate change that it would be seen just once in 10,000 years. The head of the CIA, William Burns, is continuing a rare visit to Moscow, which he's carrying out at President Biden's request at a time of badly strained ties. Russia's Interfax news agency says he's met the head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service and discussed the fight against international terrorism. Children between the ages of 5 and 11 in the United States will begin receiving coronavirus vaccinations this week after the move received official approval. The measure was signed off by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Neda Taufik reports.
While it is rare for children to experience a severe case of COVID, the CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said the virus still posed a greater risk than many other illnesses that they are already vaccinated for. 2 million children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old have been infected with the virus. Out of that number, more than 8,000 have been hospitalized and 172 have died. The CDC's independent advisors voted unanimously in favor of pediatric vaccines, saying the benefits far outweighed the risks.
The British Health Secretary says there should be tough action, including dismissals, at Yorkshire County Cricket Club over its handling of allegations of institutional racism made by a former player, Azim Rafiq. The minister, Sajid Javid, said heads should roll, as he put it, after it was reported that the cricket club had decided to take no disciplinary action. This was despite the conclusions of a report that the player was a victim of racial harassment. BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return to work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, which results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now to end the news, here is a recap of the leads. A doctor was last night killed at his medical clinic in Kingston, Georgetown. 2 men who rode on bicycles more than 500 miles to raise awareness about cancer and mental health have arrived in Latham. Guyana, through its low-carbon development strategy, pledges to reduce carbon emission by 70% in the year 2030. Leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon, believes the revised low-carbon development strategy is a vision without benefits for all Guyanese. The Guyana government has identified China Railway Group Limited to open negotiations to build the Amila Falls hydropower project and sell electricity to the Guyana Power and Light. Regionally, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has called for renewed collaboration in an effort to address climate change. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.